We may be live. It always makes me a little bit nervous just before we begin this. We are live, episode 143. I am doing the technical operational side of things tonight because Brian is not in his house tonight. He is spending time in the sunshine, the beautiful state of California. But I'm going to stop talking now and hand it off to you, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Evan. Welcome everybody to episode 143 of Real Hawk Talk. This is Brian Nemhauser, at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, coming from you from Palm Springs tonight. Actually, oh my gosh! I just have to say, I really look forward to the point where the world opens back up and everybody gets to pick a spot and just for each of you, where will be the first spot that you go once the world opens back up to the point you feel like you can travel? And that could be because you're vaccinated. It could be, whatever your threshold is. Where's the first place you will go at that moment? Evan, you look like you're dying to say.
I have an immediate answer to this.
What is your answer?
I have been asked this question before, and it's not an unfamiliar place. Okay, it's Seattle, but guess where I'm going? I'm heading straight to fucking Matador. I am hopping on a plane and I am going straight for those nachos. Not a fancy or unfamiliar place to me, but I'm starting to shake a little bit. It's more than a year.
It's not a bad answer, I have to say. And we talked about this on Twitter, but we didn't talk about it live. Matador is on DoorDash. So you can actually order from Matador, and they've started doing take and bake nachos. Basically deconstructed. They give you the chips. They give you this big, massive, like foil tray. They give you like bags of cheese and the steak and like all the toppings. And you just put it all on there, the beans, and you put it in the oven. And you've got Matador steak nachos. It's pretty solid. Like,
since when are they on DoorDash?
It's this year. It's recent.
Okay, that feels new because
it's new.
Because that would have destroyed me if I had access to that.
And these aren't their nachos from in this, like the size of them is like, it's literally like a freaking vat of Matador nachos. So
is it more than you get in restaurant?
Oh, 100. It's probably double that. But I mean, it's like $20. Like, it's not cheap, but we did that for the Super Bowl. And,
but you said the steak was like,
the steak was not in-house, and my gut was that was probably just a bad experience. Like, there's no reason the steak should be any worse than it would be like there. I think we got a bad batch, but I would do it again. I think it was pretty solid, but that's a good answer. So let's keep bringing the fellas in. Nathan Ernst, how the hell are you, dude? I have not seen you or heard. You've been like mountain man, like locked up in like.
Look at that beard.
You've been locked in like getting the tablets from, on high. I feel like there's gonna be some wisdom you shed tonight. How have you been, man?
I've been good. Yeah, I've been offline for, a couple weeks, 2 weeks, which is crazy for me.
How's your mental health?
So much better.
Have you been following any of the Seahawks drama over the past 2 weeks?
No. Well, I mean, a little. Like, I'm catching bits of it, and I gotta say, it all seems extremely stupid. And I know that I would have a much different take if I had been online the whole time. But like this whole, I don't know, the whole Russ drama to me, it just seems very dumb. No, yeah, I logged off for I was like, I'm gonna log off for like 2 days, and then I got crazy busy at work, and it turned into like 5 days, and I got back on Twitter for a minute, and I just got angry, and I was like, I'm gonna go away for a little while.
That's smart, dude. So I want to hear your answer to the question: where would be the first place you'll go when you could actually travel again?
Man, nothing special. I think just being able to go with my family to our local Mexican restaurant that we used to go to like once or every other week or whatever, and just do that very normal thing again will be amazing.
Can I just say, like, the first server I have is getting the fattest tip of all time. Like, I'm going to be a problem that first night that I go out.
I don't know if I like that phrasing, but I appreciate the sentiment. And And,
I'm just gonna log off for the night. Actually, I think I've decided that after the fattest tip, I think I'm done.
No, Rachel and I, my wife, we're talking about that today. Like, I've become like, I've always tried to be a generous tipper in general, because I just think like service jobs suck. And also being Jewish, I constantly am focused on trying to overcome the stereotype that we are cheap. Like, I want everyone to feel like, oh, they don't even know I'm Jewish. I'm like, I'm going to give you like,
you actually are
30...
real talk, one of the most generous people I know.
Well, that's
I'm not kidding.
Nice of you to say.
I'm not kidding. For the audience, Brian will take us out. We'll like meet up and do a Hawk Blogger thing, and Brian will cover like $400 worth of drinks and just be like, "Shut the fuck up, leave. I'm paying. Leave." So you can try and be humble, but people deserve to know.
I try to help where I can, but I appreciate that. But no, honestly, during this, like during the pandemic, it's like, if you're staying open and doing service jobs, like you're literally risking your life to some extent. So I've been trying to, usually when I'm doing like takeout, I'm not going to tip you for picking the food up at your restaurant, but like we tip it when we're doing takeout. It's been actually really nice down here in Palm Springs. It's different a little bit than in Seattle, in my experience, and that people like literally will say, they're like, thank you for giving us your business. Like, thank you for ordering here. And I'm like, your food's good, easy choice, but it's been really nice. And just definitely trying to tip everywhere. And it's good to know, Evan, that you will be giving fat tips. I think everyone's excited to hear about that. Jeff, at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter, you are in like the opposite weather of me and of Evan. That's why you've got that hat on, dude. How are you doing? And where will you go? Where will be the first place you go?
So yeah, as you can tell, I'm in peak winter right now.
Sorry.
Say that again. God, you froze. I'm the one with the bad internet connection.
Oh God, no, I haven't had that in like 2 years.
All right, come on.
Okay, I'm in peak winter conditions right now. February is our worst month in Toronto. It's either the snowiest or the coldest. So it's been kind of rough because it always coincides with football ending, to be honest. So it's always like a pretty dark time. And the thing is, our border is still shut down. We're in lockdown essentially. So our family has a place in Florida. And so this time of year, I would always go down there, but I would definitely want to go somewhere warm. Maybe California. San Diego is one of my favorite places to vacation. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii.
You've never been?
I've never been. And
holy shit.
That's like my dream vacation. I've always wanted to go there. And maybe with this pandemic, that might just cause me to jump on. But
Hawaii is kind of overrated.
No,
is it?
Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's
not worth the cost, frankly.
No, dude, that is a horrible take. That is a horrible take.
Based on
it's not bad. It's just I'm not sure the experience is justified by the cost.
Should I go to San Diego instead? San Diego is one of my favorites.
Absolutely not. San Diego is great, but it is not Hawaii. Hawaii is like, it is probably the best place on the planet.
That's
that's a take.
It probably is. Like, where I'll agree with Evan is that it is super expensive. Like, everything is ridiculous because it's, everything's got to be flown in. Not all the stuff's there. But as far as like paradise, I don't know that there's another place that, with the, the weather, the scenery, like everything it's got going for the people, it's pretty close to paradise. So yeah, I don't, Evan. That's something we probably do a lot. Yeah, well, we got to get you there, dude. We got to figure that out.
Yeah, and based on my internet connection, I'm probably not helping your Jewish reputation of being cheap. So,
hey, it's not my reputation.
My reputation. I'm probably not helping the reputation.
the tribe has work to do on that front. Yeah. All right, so people, that's probably our longest intro ever. We've got. Jeff is actually our MC in terms of deciding which position groups we're going to talk about in each episode this offseason. And we've talked about quarterback. We've talked about offensive line. And in that last episode, Dayna was on. Nathan was still blissfully like in real world, and we generally all agreed that offensive line was the top priority. I think that was the general take. I don't know if Nathan, you feel differently about that, but I see you nodding, so I'm going to assume yes. So today's episode is really about breaking down the rest of the offense. We've got wide receiver, we got tight end, and we got running back. We were just going to do wide receiver and tight end, but then it's like, they're going to have the running backs like just hanging out there. Let's all talk about them all together. And in fact, the running back position is one of the more interesting ones for the Seahawks this offseason. There's some like legit decisions for them to make on that front, and we've talked about it already. So, Evan, which position group do you want us to start with? I'm going to give you the honors to decide which position group we are going to start with tonight and break down.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think we should start with tight end. And reason being, because of the Zach Ertz trade rumors over the past several days.
Okay. Well, let's first start by talking like resetting what we have on the roster. Jeff, can you tell us, who are the players that are under a contract at the tight end position for the Seahawks?
So interestingly enough, there are only 2 tight ends under contract for the Seahawks right now. Will Dissly, who first 2 years of his career looked like a pretty dynamic player, 2 season-ending injuries once he got going, and then kind of a down year in 2020. The other one is Colby Parkinson, who didn't really get a chance to get going. I think he had 2 catches this year. Other than that, Greg Olsen retired. Jacob Hollister's a free agent. And Luke Wilson, who was brought in a couple times, he's also a free agent. So they got some bodies to do that, and they got some work to do there.
So Colby Parkinson and Will Dissly, yes?
Yeah, that's surprisingly weak. I feel like I know we can go into this deeper, but I feel like, and I know it wasn't a huge storyline for 2020, but what's his face? Will Dissly's non-reemergence, frankly, is kind of a bummer. I know that's not any insightful analysis, but maybe I was holding out hope, at least in 2020, that we would see maybe a return to form for him.
Nathan, I have a different take. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on this, but like he's coming off of 2 major like season-ending injuries. He made it through the whole season, and this is going to be his first offseason that he actually gets to not rehab, but actually build himself up. Like, my take is that there's no reason to expect that he won't necessarily reemerge next season from a major injury. What's your position on Will Dissly?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, I don't know that anyone should be banking on a bounce back, but I don't think 2020 is what he is now, especially with COVID and everything else too. Probably not helping his rehab. I think there's a chance that he can get back, and they had Greg Olsen, which who knows how that affected how they were trying to use him and what kind of share of that he was seeing. So I think there's a chance that he bounces back and has a much better year in 2021.
Interesting. That's for some reason a lot more optimistic than I am on him. And didn't he get injured early in 2019? That's kind of like my counter to that. Is like
the 4th game, 5th game.
I think it was later than that. I think
I guess it was his first season. That was like the 4th.
First
game.
season, it was I think 4 games. I think
it was Cleveland that he got injured in the second season.
I think that was
like 6th game or something like that.
But I mean, those are not like what he what was it in his knee that he ripped?
It's like patellar, wasn't it?
Patellar, yeah. I mean, that's not an easy one, I don't think, to come back from.
No, not at all. Quite the opposite, actually. Yeah.
I guess the question for us is, if Will Dissly is your number 1 tight end, how do you feel?
I'm not feeling great. Not right now. No.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I love Greg. I love him.
So one of the interesting things is that if Waldron's bringing the full Rams offense over, one of the things they did is they transitioned, and this might have been a personnel thing once they got rid of Brandon Cooks, but they moved heavy to tight end there. And I don't know how comfortable I don't know if it'll be the same in Seattle. I don't know if Seattle brings in another receiver, if they'll do that, but if they go 2 tight end, you cannot be comfortable with this group right now.
Well,
at the very least, they need a lot more depth, right?
Yeah. I mean, Colby Parkinson, I don't think any of us know what he is. I mean, we have hopes, but I mean, I'd be fine with Colby Parkinson being the third tight end going into next year. And if he pushes for snaps and he moves up the depth chart, great. But even if that's true, you've got to have one other veteran, like known quantity, I think, in that tight end group. Is that where you guys are on this?
Yeah,
at a minimum.
Yeah.
At a minimum. So you're thinking you might want to get 2 tight ends in like the free agency or draft?
Yeah, if it's bargain shopping, if it's not significant capital.
And there's going to be a lot of tight end cuts coming up.
What are you thinking about there?
Just we still don't know what the cap number is, but there's a lot of tight ends with sort of inflated cap numbers. So it's a position where you might see a lot of veteran cuts and guys who sign 1-year deals. And there could be a plethora of just options to fill in if they need like a third tight end or a second tight end.
I mean, isn't the obvious here that Waldron says go out and get Gerald Everett? I mean, he's the guy that comes from the Rams. He adds something that the Seahawks don't have at that position, which is kind of elite speed and athleticism at the tight end position. Parkinson may have that, but we don't really know for sure. He seems more just like a tall target with good hands. I don't think we know much more than that. Everett seems like a nice compliment to what the Seahawks have. It'll speak volumes about Everett if Waldron doesn't bring him in for a visit. Like he knows him better than most. And if he's like, yeah, let's look elsewhere, then that'll say a lot.
Can I get your guys' takes on this whole Zach Ertz situation?
Yeah, fill people in that haven't heard.
Because I'm like I don't know how to phrase this because alcohol's intoxicating my brain right now. But basically, rumors came out over the past couple of days that the Eagles are trying to offload a ton of salary because they have salary cap issues, cap space issues, and basically they need to offload a ton of talent. Zach Ertz is older. I think he's like 30 or 31 years old. He's in the last non-voidable deal year of his contract. So he makes it's like a 12 million cap hit for the Eagles, but if the Seahawks trade for him, as it stands, it would be like an 8.25 mil cap hit, which is all base salary. So there were rumors that I think it was the Colts was the other team. The Colts and the Seahawks were at least having discussions around a trade for him. And
wait, are you saying that the minimum salary that we'd have to take on for Zach Ertz is $8 million plus?
Assuming he didn't agree to reduce his salary. Yes.
Or an extension.
Screw that. No way.
Exactly, Brian.
No way.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like so many people are like, oh yeah, let's add, Zach Ertz to the offense, assuming he doesn't want to reduce his salary, because I'm not sure he would want to do that. Or, assuming the Seahawks don't want to throw a ton of money at him in an extension. I'm not sure that's the part of the offense where we should be allocating like $8 to $10 million a year.
I hate it.
Let me ask this because this is part of the show. We'll get to it later. Would you be more upset if they allocated $8+ million to Zach Ertz, not any tight end, but Zach Ertz, or to Chris Carson? Who's going to add more value to this offense, Zach Ertz or Chris Carson? I want to know.
That's actually closer to me than
right?
I think.
I think it's no question Chris Carson adds more to this offense than Zach Ertz.
If it's not a long deal, I might go Carson. Like 216.
I'm not talking about length. I'm talking about Sorry, we're not getting dirty here, Evan. We're talking about like single year $8 million cap hit.
I probably lean Ertz, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it's Ertz, no question for me. I mean,
what?
It's close for me.
What do you mean?
How are you surprised by Nathan's answer?
Yeah, how are you? How are you
possibly surprised by that?
No, I am because when has Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense got $8 million of value out of the tight end position?
When have they had Shane Waldron as their offensive coordinator? And when have they ever gotten $8 million worth of value out of a running back? Never.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just a truism, I guess. But like, Zach Ertz is 30 and like, he's not a game breaker. Like,
bottom line, both options are bad.
Yeah, I hate.
Do not do this.
Yeah, I don't think either option is great. I kind of like the idea of buying low on Ertz, but you have to get him to come in at less than 8 million, right? I mean,
that's
the
I'm
thing
down
is,
with. Yeah,
he's
like
not
what?
going to do it though, guys. He's not going to do it. He still has tons of life in his career. I don't think he's on like the final couple of years of his career in the NFL.
I don't think there's a major market for Ertz.
Yeah, that's the thing. He might have to.
I think
Still
if
wants
he
to go
hit
to
free
Philly.
agency, he would match that base salary.
Well, so, but here, hold on. Everyone, shut up. Greg Olsen cost $7 million last year.
That's a different equation.
No, it's not. Greg
It is.
Olsen
The
cost.
landscape was completely different.
He is the same position. He's old as fuck, and he cost $7 million last year. And it was a bad move. That was a bad use of capital. They did not get close to $7 million of value from Greg Olsen. What makes any of you think that they get $8 million of value from Zach Ertz?
well, in Greg Olsen's age 31 season, he caught 80 balls for 1,073 yards. So, like, what confuses me, Evan, is if you're saying that, Ertz's career isn't done, that he's got years left on his career, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he wouldn't take less money. Then doesn't that make the $8 million easier to swallow? Like, doesn't that make trading for him more appealing? If you think he can get back to something like he was just a year ago, right? Like in 2019, he was very good still.
It's more relative to the priorities on the Seahawks. Like, I'm just not sure that's a position group to throw, what would 8 million be? I don't know how much cap space they'll open, but 8 mil would be a sizable chunk of their 2021 offseason cap space.
What do you think Everett would cost?
5, 6?
I think Everett got to cost more, doesn't he? He's younger. He's more athletic, more upside.
I think this season, because of the declining cap, unless you're an elite player, I think people's costs are going to be way down.
Gerald Everett's like a middle tier tight end, right?
Wait, what did you just call him?
Gerald.
You got to Gerald. Who's Gerald?
What is it? What's his first name?
What
is it Gerald?
How do you come up with the name Gerald? There's nobody in the world called Gerald.
No one has that name.
No, that's not a name.
I wish I could blame it on the alcohol, but that's not the case.
So now they have to sign him.
Well, now they're signing him for 3 years, 30 million.
so Gerald had 41 catches for 417 yards, 1 touchdown last year.
I think he's not going to be expensive to sign.
I'm looking at his career stats.
I would rather pay Luke Wilson $3 million on a 1-year deal than Zach Ertz at 8 million. Yeah, I would.
Evan, Jesus, dude, these are horrible takes, man.
That's not a horrible take at all.
That is horrible. I have
the
much
dollar on dollar return on investment. Are you kidding me?
Okay, I'm going to take this a different route. So I'm looking at total targets in Shane Waldron, which is really Sean McVay's offense last year. Cooper Kupp, 124 targets last year. Robert Woods, 129 targets. Josh Reynolds, 81. Top 3 targets, all wide receivers, right? 81 targets is the third. Then it drops down 20 targets to 60 targets for Tyler Higbee and 62. Well, sorry, they didn't do it in order. 62 targets for Gerald Everett. So basically 60 targets at the tight end position. Tight end position was meaningful for the Rams offense, but it is a 3 wide receiver offense. It's a wide receiver driven offense. Like, I don't know, Nathan, if there's something here that really makes me think that tight end is going to be somehow more utilized than James Waldron. Offense.
I mean, Gerald Everett was their second tight end in terms of snap rate, and he was on the field for 57% of their snaps. So and with McVay running a ton of outside zone, right, almost exclusively, I think, and that being really the bread and butter of their running game, I think that they could prioritize tight end. It might not be just about targets for them.
Well, let me ask you guys this. I mean, we're going all over the place because I don't really give a shit about our structure of this conversation. if you were to spend money on one former Ram, and it was either Josh Reynolds, who had 81 targets, 51 catches, 618 yards, 2 touchdowns last year, or Gerald Everett, 41 receptions, 62 targets, 1 touchdown. Which one do you want the Seahawks to add? You could say none. That's totally fine if you say none. But if it was only one of those two, which do you think you'd want to see the Seahawks add?
I like Reynolds a lot, but I think for this team, Everett and I think Reynolds will be. I don't think there's any question that he'll get more money. So I think for the price and everything and the fit, like I think that Seattle. I don't know that Josh Reynolds as a third receiver really adds a ton to this offense other than just him being a good player. Like I think that they may want to look more at a Cooper Kupp type or something like that. Or go the John Ross route, the Philip Dorsett route, which they've kind of liked to do in the past, right? So Everett gives them some speed. He provides depth at the position that I think they'll need. He's familiar with the offense, one that he's played in a lot, that relies on the tight ends. So I think he makes a lot more sense, even if he's probably not the player I like more between the two.
Interesting. Any different takes? Jeff, Evan?
I can disagree with that. Just because the positional group is so weak at tight end for this team, I think adding an Everett versus a Reynolds brings a lot more value and talent to this team.
I'll go the other way. Using the same argument, the Seahawks are still super thin at wide receiving depth, and still they're in a scenario that if one of Tyler Lockett or DK gets hurt, who the hell do they have? You're starting Freddie Swain as an outside receiver. And yeah, the draft is pretty good at receiver as well. And David Moore is a free agent and Dorsett's a free agent. We'll talk about that in a bit. But if one of those guys gets hurt, you're shit out of luck. And we've seen what happens when Tyler Lockett gets banged up, what happens to their passing game. We've seen it time and time again. And if they're going to run a ton of 11 personnel like they have certain times with the Rams, having a good third receiver is really important. And yeah, what Nathan said is right. Like ideally a Cooper Kupp kind of player would be the best possible fit in this offense. They really lack that kind of player, and they really have since Doug left. But to me, having Reynolds, who's been in the offense, there's going to be no learning curve in another probably COVID year where there's not going to be a normal offseason. To me, he's got upside. He's young. He's been good. And now you put him with a better quarterback, I'd be very excited about it.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at the available tight ends, the free agent class, unrestricted free agent class. The fifth highest contract value for 2020 of the unrestricted free agents is Jacob Hollister.
Oh, God.
That's crazy. But no, the top tight ends from just a 2020 contract value. Number one is Hunter Henry. Is there any one of you that is saying, yep, Seahawks should make him their number one target, go get, spend $12 million, $13 million on Hunter Henry?
Waste of money.
No. We're all in agreement. Dumb as shit to do that. Rob Gronkowski with $9 million last year. That guy's only playing with Tom Brady.
He made $9 million last year.
He did. He
Oh my
did.
God.
They won a Super Bowl, dude, and was Brady's little, boy there. Jared Cook, 34 years old, made $7.5 million last year.
I'm blown away by these salaries.
Yeah.
Who the hell are paying these dudes?
It drops off here pretty soon.
Yeah, Johnny Smith is a free agent.
I mean, I guess we just paid Greg Olsen like way too much money, but
Sorry, what did you say, Jeff?
Johnny Smith is probably the most interesting free agent of that. He probably made no money last year from Tennessee.
Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's 26. Is he a good blocker as well? Am I remembering that right? Is he just a receiving tight end?
Or receiving tight end. I think Delaney Walker used to be the blocker. He was more of the flex around guy.
He's 26 and had what did he have? 745 yards and 41 catches last year. He's going to get a lot of money, isn't he?
He doesn't fit financially.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm looking at this class. I mean, Jordan Reed, Virgil Green, Tyler Croft. Tyler Croft was $6.25 million last year.
What?
Yeah. He was the 4th highest paid unrestricted free agent coming out.
Maybe it is Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett, he really he makes too much sense. Like, I almost think we should move on because that one it makes sense. I'm not against them bringing back Jacob Hollister, to be honest.
I am.
I'm really not either. Not at the price he'll come.
I am. This offense relies on tight end blocking. He is a total stiff as a blocker. If you're going to go 2 tight end and you have Hollister out there, you either leave a weak spot on the field or you dictate exactly what you're doing. I don't think he fits this offense at all.
You might be right. I just feel like they've gotten good production for his cost.
Yeah, he is what he is, really. Like, you know his strengths, you know his weaknesses, but if they want to play more 2 tight end and try to win with the outside zone, I don't think he fits at all.
Okay, is there any other tight end that somebody wants to make a case for before we move on to wide receiver? Okay, let's move on to wide receiver. So I think basically tight end, we're like Gerald Everett. I think most of us are thumbs up on Gerald Everett. Yes? Anyone thumbs down on Gerald Everett? Like, I'd be okay if they spend some money there. Let's just
Not if it gets too expensive.
Let's talk about average per year. Like, to me, if they go over $7 million for Gerald Everett, that they've crossed the line. But I think that's a reasonable price for him.
$7 million?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I like him much more if we're talking 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think.
You're not going to get him for 4 or 5, guys. He's too young.
I think you're going to get him at 5.5 on the dot.
He's 27.
That's my prediction,
guys.
actually. That's my prediction on the record.
Brian, the cap is going to go down, and you really have to pick and choose where they spend. If you're not an elite guy, I don't think you're going to get a lot of money this year. I think it's going to be a lot of undervalued contracts.
It could be like a
Greg Olsen was like,
yeah, but the cap was 98
old as time last year and got $7 million.
Like, but the cap could be down $28 million from that.
That's my point, though. Like, I think in a normal year, Gerald Everett would be pushing like $8 or $9 million easy.
I agree with that. I think it'll be down to 5.5 this year.
5.5. I mean, if you do that, like signing up right now, like that's a no brainer.
I think it happens. I think they bring him in.
I'd say it's a 50-50 shot, maybe a 55-45. I think it's likely. I think it's likely that they at least bring him in to kick the tires. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. What's our position situation in terms of who is signed on the team? Jeff, do you have that in front of you?
I do. So it's a very top heavy group. DK is on his rookie contract. Tyler Lockett is in the last year of his contract. And then it's a lot of guys on rookie contracts. Freddie Swain, John Ursula got a futures deal, and Penny Hart. That is it.
All right.
Yeah,
we got Metcalf, Lockett, Ursula, and who
Ryan
else?
Cap, Ursula, Penny Hart, and Freddie Swain. They need to add 1 to 2 bodies to that group.
Yeah. Guys, I came into this discussion ready to fight the stance of, hey, they don't need to allocate like a ton of money or draft capital here to this group. But looking at this on paper, it's not great.
Nathan's going to be like, spend all of your money on a wide receiver, like all of it.
Not really. I mean, I've just been saying this for it feels like a couple of years now. They just kind of need a professional third wide receiver, like a Josh Reynolds or someone. Like, they don't have to go all out on that spot. They just need somebody that can like play reliably for a 16-game season and like just I don't know.
What about like a Marvin Jones?
That would be amazing. Yeah,
there's a lot. This position is loaded in free agency.
Wait a second. This is a super easy one. We're already overthinking it. What is the veteran player that Russell knows has done super questionable character things off the field and that Russell's going to want anyway? Like, he wanted Josh Gordon, he wanted Antonio Brown. Who's the guy that fits that mold in this group?
Will Fuller.
Oh,
Will Fuller would be freaking amazing.
He's a free agent.
Healthy. It's just Antonio Brown again, right?
Yeah, AB is a free agent.
Oh, God, I would have such a hard time cheering for that dude.
Yeah,
Really.
he's going back to Tampa.
He'll
But he
probably just
fits-
re-sign with them, right?
Yeah,
He
Don't you
fits
think?
exactly what Nathan described, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what Nathan just described. Professional third receiver.
Here's the thing, guys. They should not go out and buy like one of the top 3 free agent receivers, but I would not be opposed. I would, strongly argue that they probably need to add not just one, but maybe 2 more of those established veteran type receivers. There's like names like even like a Curtis Samuel or a Marvin Jones or a T.Y. Hilton, like even an older AJ Green. Like for what those guys are going to cost, I think there's value there.
Yeah, I mean, there's several old guys. So AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton, Marvin Jones, Sammy Watkins to some degree. There's somebody else in this, Antonio Brown. That one of those guys is probably not gonna get what he thinks he's gonna get right now, right? I kind of think maybe T.Y. Hilton is the guy that falls through the cracks and all that. And then if Seattle can swoop up somebody like that for $5-6 million a year or something like that, or down, maybe $8 million or something.
So there's a
That's
name
really
here that
interesting.
we forgot to add. Golden Tate is likely to get cut.
There's rumblings about that.
It's like, I think rumblings maybe is underplaying it a little bit. I think he's almost certain to get cut. Would you guys be in favor of bringing Golden Tate back?
100%. If nothing else, just for the drama of the whole thing.
You just want the chaos.
Bring in Sherman, bring in Golden Tate.
Let's get the whole crew back together.
Hold a second. People think I'm talking about like the rumors about what happened with Russell's wife. I'm not even talking about that, which from what I understand has been totally proven to be untrue, and Russell's come out against it and all that kind of stuff. Golden Tate, he threw shade Russell's way when he left, like as a quarterback. He's done it multiple times. It has nothing to do with wives or girlfriends or anything like that. Golden's, he's a little bit like, Doug in terms of just not always being the clear fan of Russell Wilson as a quarterback. So that's an odd fit. Like, I think it's a perfect fit in terms of what the team needs. I think it's like an ideal fit in some ways of what the team needs, but fit like culture wise, that seems like a gamble.
There are just a ton of interesting names.
There really are.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sammy Watkins in a lot of ways could be pretty ideal for this offense. We've talked about John Ross. Will Fuller is out there. He's probably going to get paid. He has injury concerns, but he's another guy that like would kind of be a dream to fall to Seattle. And then interesting like athletic types like Chris Conley, Zay Jones, neither of them have lit their careers on fire or anything, or they kind of have lit their career on fire in a bad way. There's just, you can go all the way down this list. Mohamed Sanu, Juju Smith-Schuster, probably going to price out. Nelson Aguilar is kind of an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's guaranteed to immediately become everyone's least favorite Seahawk when he joins, but like, he's not a totally bad football player. He's just a moron sometimes. Dante Moncrief,
why would he become our least favorite Seahawk?
because he would immediately become the next Jermaine Kearse,
He drops a lot of passes.
and he just does boneheaded stuff, but he's a good player.
He had a great year.
He had a bounce back year last year.
He's talented at least. So yeah, I mean, you can just keep going down. I mean, Kenny Galladay, Josh Reynolds.
Kenny Galladay is going to be a number one though. That guy's going to get paid, right?
Him, Allen Robinson.
No, they're talking like 17 to 19 million a year. For
Yeah,
Kenny
he's going to get
Galladay.
paid.
And
Those
even
guys-
like you mentioned Chris Godwin, that guy's going to get paid too.
Oh, yeah.
He's 25, and that guy's like he's a solid number 2 receiver.
At worst, yeah.
At where he could easily be a one.
Yeah, he's really. I mean, this Josh Reynolds with all those players. Josh Reynolds, what is he going to get? Like $3 million a year?
No.
I think he's going to get closer to 10 probably.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
No, it's a buyer's market. I don't see it.
Eight for wide receivers, dude.
For
Wide receivers.
receiver?
Wide
Yeah, the
receivers
market-
get paid.
He'll be down. I
Receiver-
think it's gonna be guys.
Receivers make money. I could
That
see
market-
I could see
That
8
does
to 10
not-
for Reynolds.
That does not square off with what you guys were saying about the cap.
Yeah, I don't see it.
If the market's going to be depressed and this position has more talent than almost any other we've talked about, I don't see how that plays out. He's like the 15th best receiver, like 10th best receiver on the market.
Okay,
Yeah.
but here's the deal. Hold on. Randall Cobb, $9 million a year. Golden Tate, 9.3 a year. Jamison Crowder, 9.5 a year. Robbie Anderson, 10 a year.
Right.
Adam
But we're
Humphrey.
talking about the cap going down.
I'm just like the
But
guy.
receivers get paid, and it's stupid a lot of times. Really stupid a lot.
I think the
Josh
money
Reynolds
will
is
go-
his ceiling is number 3. He is not a number 2 in any offense. I
Totally.
just don't see it.
Yeah, I think the money's going to go to the guys like Corey Davis is going to get a shitload of money. Juju is going to get a shitload of money. And then there's that next tier of like the Hilton, Marvin Jones. I think Curtis Samuel will get a ton of money. I think there's that Marvin Jones tier with AJ Green and Reynolds. And I think they're going to be undervalued. I think they're going to be cheap this time.
I started at least I don't know if I started, but I definitely was early on the John Ross thing. I think that's a great option. I mean, if you came out with John Ross and Will Fuller, like burn the boats. I mean, that would be freaking amazing. I think those two guys, like either of those guys would be great. I'll say it right now, guys. If they're not bringing AJ Green in for a visit,
Well, there are no visits.
I don't care. If they're not vaccinate that fucker. Bring that guy in for a visit. AJ Green, he's a veteran. He's 33. If you can't get him to buy into this team and his role, you telling me an AJ Green, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf does not get you aroused?
I knew you were going to say that.
I was going to say something else, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not just, hey, let's have Josh Reynolds and have like a legit number 3. Like that's a difference making. Even at 33, AJ Green is a unique athlete.
He might come cheaper than you think.
Agreed.
I think there's a lot of, to me, free agency is all about finding value. And AJ Green is one of those players where I think it's not right that people look at him this way, but they just look at the reduced production over the past couple of years, and it's mostly injury related. Yeah, he's an older receiver, but are you telling me he couldn't, be a serviceable third option in the Seahawks offense? I think he could be.
I see people in the chat like, he doesn't get separation. Russell's never like been a separation dependent thrower. Like he's like a completion over expected guy. That's his thing. He makes tight window throws, and you've got a guy that goes up and over defenders. Like I think AJ Green's like
he's been dealing with nagging injuries for the past like full 2 seasons. He hasn't been healthy.
That's not. I mean, that's a red flag though.
No, it is, and that's why he might come cheaper.
He never plays. Let's go.
No, but that's why he's probably going to come cheaper. So you just hope, obviously, for improved health. But I'm not convinced like he can't still be a productive player. I just think it was mostly injury related.
Yeah, and I think similar to the year they signed Averill and Bennett, I think we mentioned all of the bodies here. This is a position where I think Seattle, if their cap room is a bit limited, I think they're going to kind of sit back and see who sort of falls through the cracks. And I think that's really the smartest way to approach this. And someone like AJ Green or Marvin Jones or John Ross, I think that's where they're gonna get into this market, because I don't see them going after a big money guy. They just have to allocate the money elsewhere. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity here, and they should be aggressive with that sort of second, third tier of guys, because they need someone, and there's going to be affordable guys.
How much go ahead.
That was why I'm way more interested in being like more aggressive in pursuing Gerald Everett than Reynolds or any given receiver, right? I think that they should play a little bit of the waiting game at the receiver spot. They still need to invest there and get a legit player, but Gerald Everett's name stands out way more amongst the tight end names than like really any of the wide receiver names do.
Yeah, I want to retract my previous statement. I was absolutely wrong with my Josh Reynolds take like 2 minutes ago. I was horribly wrong. That was a terrible take.
Which take was that?
That I tried to play devil's advocate versus Everett versus Reynolds. I was terribly wrong.
I mean, it'd be great. I'd be, if they end up walking away with both of those guys.
Yeah,
I'll be pretty happy.
I feel like people have a higher opinion than Josh Reynolds than I do. I think that guy, he's he's David Moore of a different type. Like, I mean, he's got some different talents than David Moore does, but it's not like, oh my God, Josh Reynolds is this massive upgrade at the third wide receiver position. Like, Will Fuller is a massive upgrade at the third wide receiver position, like massive.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be the guy that I'm just like, I would be disappointed in if the Seahawks re-signed is Everett. Like, sorry, not Everett, Dorsett.
Disappointed?
I don't want to see that guy. Like, it's probably totally irrational. I'll admit it, but didn't play a snap. Was not the greatest receiver even when he was healthy. Like, move along. Let's bring in someone else. Like, there's too many good options out there. If they just rehash a guy that didn't play a snap for you last year, and his best thing is that he's fast, but he hasn't really like ever had a standout season, like, not that interested. Like, you know,
to me, that guy for me is David Moore.
I get it.
I mentioned my take on Hollister earlier. I think this is a similar camp. David Moore is sort of an all or nothing player. He makes brilliant plays, but just down to down, play to play, his detail is just not good enough. They've relied on him as that third receiver for too long, and he's been more of a liability than an asset, I think, if you're evaluating the full picture. And for me, this is a position where you just need to upgrade. If David Moore's your fourth or fifth receiver, sure, that's fine. But if he's your number 3 receiver, to me, that's a failure.
Is he unrestricted or is he an RFA?
He's unrestricted.
He's unrestricted.
He did his deal last year.
Let me bring up another name that I think is he could end up having a market, but I think is underrated. Kendrick Bourne, 49er, 26 years old, 49 catches last year, 700 yards. I think he's a developing player. To me, he is he's a step above Josh Reynolds for sure. Like, I think he is. Oh, absolutely. I don't know if
I agree with that.
I think Kendrick Bourne is a better receiver than Josh Reynolds and has more upside. I think Josh Reynolds has the classic receiver body, but I think Bourne has the athleticism. He is more in the mold of like Deebo Samuel, like the more physical type of receiver. I think he'd be a really interesting add to the team, especially with his age.
Okay, one thing I'd ask you, is there a certain type of player that you think complements DK and Tyler better? Like, a lot of the guys we mentioned are like the down the field, John Ross, or do you think more of like a Golden Tate yards after catch guy is a better fit? Like, should they be focusing on something that fits with they don't really have now, or something that fits better with Russell, which is more of a deep ball?
You know, I think that there's two things that they're lacking. One is like not lacking, but I think they benefit from. Another deep threat would be great. So like, you know, that's where the John Ross thing comes in. But I also think like the yards after catch guy that can come in, especially in third downs, you know, good route runner, but also maybe physical tackle breaker. That's where a Golden Tate or a Kendrick Bourne or those kind of guys are interesting. I think either one of those would be good adds to this team. I don't know. Where do you guys think on that one?
I mean, anytime you can lean into Russ's strengths and get someone that's really fast, that's great. But I think this team needs a more polished route runner to kind of complement Tyler and DK, especially DK there. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely am like less interested. I mean, I'm interested in AJ Green, but I don't think he's like the cleanest fit. Obviously the upside is bigger there, but yeah, I'm much more interested in finding, another Doug or something like that.
Can I ask a batshit insane question?
Yes, of course. That's what you're expected to do.
One player that is speculated about being traded this offseason, receiver position, is OBJ.
I don't want another.
Is there any chance or any reason they should swing for the fences? Because it would be a reasonable contract to take on.
How? I mean, what would he be?
He would cost in 2021, he would cost 14.5, but in 22 and 23, it would go down to 13.
That's probably still too much for me.
I think it's crazy. And look at Look at McVay's offense that Waldron is probably going to bring in at least a chunk of. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, like perfect fits. I think you could say Tyler Lockett's a good fit for that offense. DK Metcalf, actually, it's not clear how he fits in that offense other than he's just amazing and they'll figure out a way to fit. Like the type of guy that they need is not necessarily an OBJ. I think going overboard on receiver would be a mistake.
I mean, I don't know. I don't agree there. I think OBJ is like, I mean, you can kind of look at him as like Robert Woods on steroids or something like that. Like,
I'm not saying he wouldn't be good. Like, of course he would, but
I think he's a real clean fit. I think he has the speed that accentuates Russ's strengths. He's got route running and he's, agility. He can kind of do everything. And I mean, I know people have opinions and stuff, and he hasn't exactly lived up to the hype, but I just they don't need to spend 14 million on a receiver.
Talking about.
And that's really
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to bring it back for a second. You guys were like giving me like side eye for the Kendrick Bourne take. Kendrick Bourne, PFF, out of all receivers last year, ranked number 50. Okay. So it's not super high, but reasonable. That was ahead of Robert Woods, by the way. Where do you think Josh Reynolds ranked?
Below Robert Woods.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, 100?
Okay. Anyone else?
70-ish.
Yeah, I'd say like 68. I don't know.
Yeah, 78. So, like, I'm telling, like, I think Kendrick Bourne is like, he is a younger, lesser Golden Tate. I'm not saying he is Golden Tate. I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying has that upside. He's 26. He can play physical. I think he's a really interesting fit for what the Rams style offense looks like. I think he's probably going to get more money than the Seahawks are willing to pay him, but I think that guy's underrated. I think I wouldn't sleep on him as an option. And Seahawks know him well.
Yeah, to add to this, one of the main strengths, this is a really weird draft class, but one of the main strengths of the draft is wide receiver. And obviously Seattle's really limited in their picks and they might not want to invest here, but if they want a cost-controlled option as a third receiver, this might be a good year to invest maybe their second-round pick. And just looking back at last year, this is another reason why they fucked up last year and not dipping into that receiver class, because now they are left with this problem where they're going to have to rely on free agents when they could have really added a good cost-control player, and a variety of different types were available.
Why the hell isn't John Ursua just the guy? Like, I mean, how much different would this all be? Like, all of us agree that they would benefit from a Doug Baldwin style slot receiver that can, be a reliable route runner on third down. That's what John Ursua is meant to be, right? He's old as time. Like the guy's like 75 already, but like
older than both Reynolds and Bourne, right?
Yeah, he's super old, but he's cheap. Like, you afford him for like coins you find under the couch cushions. So like if they could trust him, it would be great. But he did nothing last year. Was he injured? Did I miss that? Or they just like
didn't they release him briefly?
He was released and practice squad all year.
So
it's just so weird.
He was under Penny Hard.
Yes, he's a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Who was overaged when they drafted him. It's not that weird.
But like Penny Hart, really? Like
it felt like every time we saw him play, he was productive. Even I know it's preseason, whatever.
What do you mean every time we saw him play?
Yeah,
he would consistently get separation.
In what game? He played like a game, Evan.
That was a couple of preseason games.
You're talking preseason game.
Yeah, I'm talking preseason. I'm not talking regular season games, but I'll take what I can get.
Preseason is like playing against like your dad. Like
it's when Russell Wilson won his job.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's just weird. It's a shame. I think I guess I'm just going off of what Jeff said. It's a shame that the Seahawks haven't locked that position. There's been an opportunity. There's been like 2 best receiver drafts for a few years, and the Seahawks got DK Metcalf, so it's not like they've come out empty-handed.
Yeah,
but they could have done more, no doubt about it.
Why aren't we hearing about Tyler Lockett extension talks?
Why aren't we hearing about any extension talks?
I'm not saying I want to come out of the gate here and be super clear. Like I see all these Tyler Lockett should be traded takes and they're horrible and I hate them with a passion. But I also like have a question in the back of my mind as to like, why are we not hearing them talking about extending him right now? He's entering the last year of his deal.
Well, here's the thing though. They should really look at trading Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you not evaluate that? Like, I don't think that you get enough back to actually pull the trigger. But like, seriously, you wouldn't trade Lockett for a second round pick?
Oh no, I would. I would.
Well, then how are you?
I don't think they'll get that. I don't think they'll get anywhere close to that. I
mean, okay, well, third round pick. What's your cutoff? Would you do it for a third?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
What would you do? What would you trade him for, Nathan?
I think it's second round. I think you have to get a second rounder.
Wow.
That just leaves you so lacking at the position.
This guy had like a perfect passer rating when Russell targeted him for like he does.
Where is this trade Tyler Lockett stuff coming from? Like, well, I don't understand where it's coming from.
I think it's coming from
you have to make you have to make a decision though. Like, do you want to give him like $14 million a year?
It's probably going to be more, but yeah, okay. I agree.
I mean, do you want to pay him 14, 15, 16 million dollars a year? Do you want to let him walk for nothing? Do you want to trade him? Like, those are the options. And
do you want the cap space is the other thing.
I would pay him that. I would.
Right? Because if you trade him now, what does that open up in terms of cap space? And what does that allow you to go? Does that allow you to more aggressively pursue an Allen Robinson or?
Don't do that.
Well, or, I mean, spread it around. Whatever you want to do.
Here's the thing, guys.
Don't trade a perfectly good receiver in your system that does everything you kind of need him to do well so that you can free up cap space to spend it on another guy that you don't know if he's going to fit well, that's going to cost more money. And I'm not down with
the problem I have with this, guys, is like Russell is in his prime right now. And he's complaining about the talent around him. Are we really going to take like one of his top weapons away from him?
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
Like the fuck?
So he would clear 12.5 million if you traded him.
You go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what Evan just said is, if you want to piss off Russ 100%, and Russ already is pretty close to DEFCON 9 right now, and you take away his best friend and his.
Do you have like Canadian DEFCONs, like DEFCON 9? That's actually pretty low. Like DEFCON 1 is where it gets really bad. But wait, you don't agree there?
Then it get worse the higher up it goes.
No, it gets lower.
DEFCON 1 is the worst.
DEFCON 1 is.
Well, okay, that's what I.
Okay.
But like,
I mean, did you guys watch War Games? Like,
no, we are not 80 years old.
Can we go back?
Come on, it's a quality movie.
I want the answer to my question. Is it weird that there haven't been reported extension talks?
It is.
No, I don't think
it feels weird. It feels weird.
There's none of it going around the whole league. They're all waiting to see what the cap is.
But Jeff, extending Tyler Lockett increases their cap space.
No matter
that's what makes
right.
Yes, that's what makes no fucking sense to me. It's this is a positive cap move.
Yeah.
There's just no extension talks on anyone right now. The whole league is kind of waiting around for that.
Unless it's a cash flow thing and the organization is like, we want to retain a certain amount of cash on hand because we're greedy fucks, whatever, then you could do that. But like, you got to keep them in the fold. That's all
I do think I think it's an interesting question just because the offense scuffled last year. And we've obviously talked about where Russ has some issues. We talked about where Shoddy had issues. They're also part of the issue. And we talked about the offensive line having issues. Like we've talked about all those things. Receivers also didn't necessarily have the greatest end of that season. Like DK got pissed off that he wasn't getting the ball more, but he also was not getting uncovered pretty that much either. And Tyler, there were a lot of all 22 clips where I was seeing Tyler getting covered up. So it wasn't like Tyler was just he's the route running perspective. You're expecting him to be open more consistently than DK, I would think. And so it's a legit question of whether you want to double down on investing in the guy, especially when you got a free agent class where there's a lot of options and your draft capital is like nil and your cap space is tight. I think it's a legit question. If they traded Tyler Lockett, I would be like grimace emoji. Like I'd be like, ugh. I would not be pissed. I would just be like, oh man, they're going to have to nail the landing on this one because it could really go wrong. I would not be like, this is a dumbass move.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they do with Tyler that doesn't leave me making the, grimacing. Like, if they pay him a ton of money,
right?
That's scary. Because
is it really though?
His drop off though last year was not the first year. That's 2 years in a row. That he just ended the year as not a very dynamic player. And so I don't know. I don't know how long I don't know what his longevity looks like. I mean, it's crazy, but like, how old was Doug when he retired?
31?
Early 30s. I don't know if that's a good.
He was 29, wasn't he?
No, I don't think so. Maybe he was. I don't think that's obviously he retired for other reasons. Though.
Sure. But like, football careers end much sooner than we think they do, right? And so let's say Tyler makes it to 31 or 32 and you're paying $14-15 million for the last 2 or 3 years of his career.
Oh my God, he was 29.
Yeah. And that's early. Like Doug's atypical. So like, he's not what you should expect Tyler to do, but like football careers, it's the not for long league. I mean,
yeah.
And so you're if you pay him $15 million a year for 4 years, you're very possibly paying, that much money for the last 3-4 years of his career.
Yeah, I think you have to make a determination here. If you're not going to pay him, you have to trade him because then you're going to get a third next in 2023. Like
they cannot do an Earl Thomas with him.
Yeah, they can't. If you're not going to pay him and you made that determination, trade him now while his value is at his highest. They still got a cheap deal. If you're going to pay him, like Evan said, just extend him.
A second round pick, though? Oh, that is like, guys, I got to say, like the chances that's going to, like, it's a second round pick plus it's the cap space. That's how you'd have to think about it.
Yeah, 12 mil.
I think the chances that you turn a second round pick plus the cap space into more value than Tyler Lockett's going to add to your team, I think it's less than 50%.
What if that's the difference between you getting like Corey Linsley and not? So now you're trading.
Done. Frickin' sign me up. No hesitation. If that honestly is the difference, like give me a great offensive line and the rest we'll figure it out. Like give me Kendrick Bourne and Philip Dorsett and DK Metcalf. We'll fucking figure it out.
And a second round pick and Corey Linsley. And
I would agree with that.
Who do you want to be paying, top of the market for their position money in the next few years? Is it Tyler Lockett or is it, Corey?
That's why I say, careful what you wish for, Russ.
I mean, you got
careful what you wish for,
guys. Like we talk about paying receivers. Look who's coming up on an extension in the next 1 to 2 years. It's DK Metcalf.
Oh,
that's where this gets interesting.
Like,
you want to pay these guys $35 million combined?
Yeah, and he could even be more.
Dude, so give him like the freaking football. Like I'm not even talking the literal. I'm talking the new.
He's gonna want more than football.
Make him the president of the United States. Like give him whatever he wants. Like that guy.
Blank check.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, I think we should move the conversation to running backs.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we've been on for an hour.
Yeah, we got to bring it all home, Nathan. Like, we'll go back to receivers.
I think we all agree it's not a super critical position, but it is a really interesting position for them this offseason.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't tell me it's not interesting. Like their lead running back is leaving, most likely leaving. And there's some names behind them that is interesting. You've got so let me just go down the list because I've got it in front of me, Jeff. You have Rashad Penny. What's the guy's first name? Dallas. What's his first
Dallas.
name? DJ.
Don't
Dallas.
you have the list in front of you?
Not the. It's just the first letter, not the full name. Travis Homer.
You would pronounce it wrong anyway.
Travis Homer, Travis Homer, who's solely responsible for all pass production over 2020. You've got Carlos Hyde, who's a free agent, Chris Carson, who's a free agent, and also Alex Collins, who is a free agent.
You guys got to talk because I'm still laughing about that.
Yeah, Brian's a fucking asshole.
I got the list right in front of me. I can't read any of their names, but let me just command this podcast.
There's some free agent names like Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Mike Davis is a free agent, Fournette, Jamal Williams.
Hold on. Stop just listing names. If the Seahawks, in all their wisdom, decide, you know what, we need a lead dog running back, and we don't have him on the roster, and we're gonna bring it back, and they sign a running back to a contract that none of us like, more money than any of us like, and the name is either Aaron Jones or Chris Carson, which one would you have less vomititious reactions to? Nathan,
I mean, for me,
I'm coming. I'm looking at you, Nathan.
Okay, it's for me, it's Carson because I think he's going to get less overall.
Okay.
I mean, and that's really what it just comes down to is how are you going to minimize the damage?
Anyone feel different?
Probably not.
I mean, I love Chris Carson. I think Aaron Jones brings a little bit more to the table.
Is he a better pass catcher?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's a little bit more of a versatile running back as well. I think, and I'm not sure that he has the injury challenges that Chris Carson's had.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Carson's durability, to give him a huge deal.
You know who I could totally see the Seahawks signing?
Yeah,
James Conner.
Ugh.
Oh, That's
not
a bad call.
I'm not saying it's a good thing.
He's 26.
I could totally see it happening, and it's going to be the whole great angle of he overcame a ton of shit in his life, and that means he's a good running back.
I think Marlon Mack's another name.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
25.
Coming off the ACL, he'll be down in price.
Yeah.
He's like a lead back type of guy.
My only worry with Mac is that they might not look at him that way. They have a size preference, and I don't think he meets it, right? Isn't he a little bit on the smaller side, like 210 or something like that?
I think so.
So how do you guys view Penny?
A catastrophic waste of a first round pick.
Well, yeah, that's got to be one of the worst.
One of the worst decisions this
Probably one
franchise
of the
has
worst
ever made, and one of the worst marks in John Schneider's tenure as general manager.
I would agree with that. I don't think that's hyperbole either.
And I have his jersey.
I mean, what about Leonard Fournette?
See, this is kind of the sweet spot for me. I want to approach this the same way that they approach receiver and basically see who is cheap but capable. And so Fournette, I mean, that's the only thing is that list isn't super long actually. Mark Ingram is pretty interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like
he's been left for dead
a little bit.
Like he got cut a while ago. There's no buyers.
He didn't get cut until late in the year, though, right?
No, he got cut like the day after the season ended.
Yeah. Okay.
I will tell you the guy that sorry, Nathan, now you're going through your list.
No, the list is short. Yeah.
The guy that I would be really upset if they signed is Mike Davis. Like,
Really?
I like Mike Davis.
You don't think he'd come cheap?
I don't care if he comes cheap. He was our third running back for a reason. Like, I'm just not interested in that guy.
Would you rather have Rashad Penny or Mike Davis as your leader?
Rashad Penny, no question. 100 times. Rashad Penny has way higher upside. Like, I don't want to spend money on Mike Davis. He's coming off a season where he actually played pretty well. He's going to command the highest salary he's ever going to get as a player. He is not that good. He's just a
mediocre player.
An average running back.
He's the running back.
Yeah, and he's the average one. Don't buy high on that guy. No thanks. I'd rather it's Carlos Hyde. I'd rather that than Mike Davis.
Jeff, plug your ears. Do you think Todd Gurley could come at a reasonable value?
He was cooked. He's approaching below NFL like levels, I think, right?
Was he that bad in Atlanta?
I think he put up some numbers a little bit, but I don't think he
I think
was.
they replaced him at the end of the year with like DJ Dallas level players.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up rushing for almost 700 yards, 9 touchdowns, but 3.5 yards a carry. I just don't think he's got the juice in his legs anymore.
I feel so bad for him. He went from like an elite star running back in the NFL to like the dude just can't catch a team. Like
Not an arthritic knee.
Yeah,
it's
he just
really
got a
sad.
degenerate knee.
Yeah, that was the knock on him.
The Rams fucked up so badly, extending him like 2.5 years early.
Yeah.
Like
Then
good
they
for
got same production from CJ Anderson, who was making
good for Gurley, bad for the Rams.
So Gurley, by the way, PFF had him as the 53rd ranked running back.
Yeah, that's about
Jesus.
Wait, let me make sure. That's actually as receiving. That's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Let me reshuffle here. 57.
So
like,
worse.
He's a guy
57.
that like you should expect him to rapidly decline to like just get, and he has been rapidly declining. And you know, if he's above the 70s next year, I'll be surprised, or below the 70s, I guess.
We got to go round robin on this because I really need to know. I mean, I know our opinions on what we think should happen, what all of our preferences are. Will the Seahawks re-sign Chris Carson? I want to know that from each. What is your prediction? Will the Seahawks re-sign Chris Carson? Evan, what's your prediction?
No.
No. Jeff?
No, I get a feeling there's some bad blood there.
Nathan?
No.
Okay.
Do you feel differently, Brian?
I'm like right on the fence, to be honest. Like, I think that there's a lot of signs that they're not going to re-sign him. Like the Seahawks' typical approach with those types of situations is they would have re-signed him by now.
Yep.
Like that usually is how, and the verbiage that Pete Carroll will be using when he talks about him would be different. So I think the signs are no. If his market is depressed enough, like, and he comes back to the team, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I kind of do. I mean, he'll have his feelings hurt, and he'll go somewhere else just to spite Seattle at that point.
That's typically like, yeah, a lot of, for people that don't know, I mean, it's this weird dynamic. I mean, I think it's kind of weird, but like players, they go to their team, the team says, this is what we'll offer you, or we're not interested, like go find your market. And they find that it's a lot lower. For whatever reason, players do not like coming back to their team and being like, okay, I'll take what you were thinking you're going to offer. Like they just go elsewhere. And it's not the Seahawks' fault that no one wants to offer him more money. Like that's not their problem. But yeah, so it probably is likely he's elsewhere. I think that means they've got to add. I do think that they have to add to the position. I don't think DJ Dallas showed enough. Travis Homer. Like that guy should not be carrying the ball.
So I was actually going to ask. So does everyone think that how will people feel if they don't sign a free agent running back? They add like in the draft another third, fourth, fifth, whatever round, right?
I'm okay with Penny as the lead back, frankly. I'm not excited about it.
Yeah. If they have a drafted player that they feel good about, I'm okay with that. Or even an undrafted player. If there's someone that has some like potential, I'd be fine with going that
You guys are going to shit all over me for this, but I would look at bringing back Carlos Hyde.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like for even what he signed for last year, I'd probably do, frankly.
Ugh, no.
Yeah, a little much. Right?
It's like, come on, that's a Jason Myers contract. Who gives a fuck?
He's like, to me, he's like a $1 to $2 million player.
But like, what's that $2 million difference? Who the fuck are the Seahawks going to spend it on? Like one fourth of Greg
Benson Mayowa was like a $2 million player.
1/4 of Greg Olson's salary. Like,
you always pick the cost salary. like a lot of guys that are $2 to $5 million that end up being really good values. Anyway, Jeff, you were trying to say something. I want to hear your
Oh, I
thoughts.
was going to say I'd be pretty happy with the situation Nathan presented. Penny's a decent hedge to have as your sort of insurance policy if free agency doesn't fall your way. He's a guy clearly the organization valued, and they go into the draft, and really that's where the value is a running back. You plug them in while they're fresh legs. You spend on offensive line, and it's been proven over time that even a 5th round pick, or Carson was a 7th round pick. If you invest in the offensive line, I don't care if they sign a veteran running back. These guys are all pretty bad. And I'd rather them just do that, honestly, than spend $3 million to $5 million on a guy who I don't think is particularly special.
All right. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. Number one backfield priority. Not Chris Carson, not Aaron Jones, all these other guys. Kyle Juszczyk. Sign Kyle Juszczyk, steal him away from the goddamn 49ers. The guy can block. He helps pass protection. He is fine as a runner in short yardage, and he's a fantastic receiver. The guy's essentially a tight end. He's a receiver in some cases. That guy's actually a difference maker on offense. I would spend $5 million on that guy. Even $6 million on that guy.
Oh gosh. Do you know how many snaps the Rams gave to fullbacks last year?
I do not.
0.
Ooh, Pete Carroll is in shambles.
Pete Carroll hasn't been given a lot of snaps to fullbacks last year or two either.
How different is the Rams and the 49ers offense just in terms of
I think it's pretty different, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, okay, quick. Do you guys know how many offensive snaps Nick Bellore had last year?
Too many.
Just take a stab. Guess a number.
20.
No idea. 50.
30.
35, yeah.
Yeah. Nick Bellore's a great special teamer, and good for him. But, yeah. I don't know. I think Juszczyk is a difference-making offensive player. I think he's a difference maker. I would find a place for him on the team.
You really just want to piss off Niner fans.
Maybe. No, that honestly is secondary. I would like that, but I think the guy has more unique talent and value add than some of these other guys we're talking about. Definitely more than like a Carlos Hyde. Like fuck that. That guy's just he's an every guy.
What's good about him, he's really good from a deception standpoint, and he really helps you hide things in terms of your looks, in terms of run pass looks. And just as we said, your run-of-the-mill running back, it's more of a product of your offensive line. At least Juszczyk can really add some unique value in terms of you can use him in a lot of different looks, and he doesn't dictate anything what you're doing. He's really good in play action. He's been really good at lead blocking. So I do agree with Brian that he adds some unique value, but $6 million would be way too much.
All right, I know we're past time here. I gotta say, running back position is going to be an interesting one. I don't think any of us particularly trust the team with how they handle this position. The draft capital they've spent on it, the capital they've spent on it. I'll also just say, human side, I hope Chris Carson gets a boatload of cash. That guy puts his body on the line. He plays with tons of heart. He keeps, protects the team. He made $600,000 last year. That guy deserves to get paid. He really does. So I hope he does, whether it's not with Seattle or not, that's fine. Of all the positions and we talked about today, I think, and all the players we've talked about today, wide receiver is the one that gets me most excited. Even if you got Gerald Everett, I think that's an interesting ad for sure. I don't know that that's okay, now they're looking like they're in a contention, they're going to really change the offense. I think if you got Corey Linsley and you got a receiver that you're excited, like Corey Linsley and Will Fuller, that's two names. That you had with Jake, you had to trade off somewhere else. I'd be down with that. I think those are the two positions on offense that I'd want them to invest in. Offensive line and wide receiver are the two positions, free agent wise, I want them to invest in. And I'm curious as we're wrapping up here where you guys are on that. And Jeff, let's start with you.
Yeah. Does that include offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of summarize on the offensive side, top two position groups that you'd want them to go after.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the names and the depth at wide receiver is by far the most exciting. When we read that tight end list, it got really bad really fast. So obviously it's important that they do add there, but I think just from a quality standpoint, this is sort of like the pass rushing market last year where they can really – there's a lot of different names and a lot of different ways they can go. And if they try to get too cute and fuck it up like they did the pass rushing last year, I think I'll be most disappointed, more so than if they don't sign Gerald Everett. So I think it's really important they handle this well and not only add depth, but add some quality because we've seen what happens with Tyler Lockett, what happens to the passing game.
I want to ask you guys to have it hear you other guys, but someone in the chat just said something I totally forgot about, and I completely agree with. Do not sign Carlos Hyde with those guys. Alex Collins to me is just as good as Carlos Hyde. Re-sign him. Like, just bring him back. That's totally fine by me.
So are you happy if the running back room though is Penny, Dallas, and Alex Collins next year?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm mostly the same. I definitely get, I mean, receivers are just one of the more exciting position groups, right? And so, and the names there are maybe the best of all free agency. So that's the sexy spot, obviously. But like, I don't feel like this offense needs to like change completely, or like it sucked ass at the end of the year, but it was incredibly good at the beginning of the year, right? And so this isn't something where they have to like they're desperate to get an influx of talent or change things or whatever. Like for me, I mean, it's about I think offensive line is where you kind of want to prioritize, and you can see if you can build an elite unit there. I think that they have some interesting pieces there that could make for a really strong group, and so Lindsley is someone that's really interesting. But the rest of it for me, it's just being able to like ride out a hopefully a 21 game season or however many 20 game season, whatever it is. And so depth is really important, and the Gerald Everetts and the Josh Reynolds and the John Rosses and that stuff to me is filling it out and being able to ride out if Lockett has a rough stretch, or if Disley doesn't come back and isn't amazing, or there's an injury, right, that you're not just falling off a cliff and suddenly you have a black hole at tight end. That's my big thing with the skill position group.
Evan,
I completely forgot the question. what was the question?
what are you drinking tonight, Evan?
Vodka and peach juice. Very classy.
Oh Jesus, dude.
Yeah, what's up?
God, that is just vomit. So on offense, your top, like you can only meaningfully affect two position groups and like two positions. I said, give me Corey Lindsley and a receiver.
Yeah.
And where are you? Like,
can I double down on offensive line?
Yeah.
Can I say two for offensive line? Like, yeah, I think there's real depth and, injury concerns around, the high level talent at receiver, and obviously tight end needs somebody added there. But offensive line is the place where I would like to see them spend big and spend on multiple players. If you give Russ the best offensive line of his career and, you fail to add any significant sort of skill players, I think that offense is going to be better if, against the inverse situation, basically. So I think O-line is where they should really double down on.
Okay. So you go two offensive line, even if it means you're bargain shopping on wide receiver and tight end.
It does.
Okay. I like it. I mean, I don't know how that all plays out, but I agree with you. I think that's such a.
You saw last year with Cleveland, they had an offensive line going into the last year that was worse than Seattle. They spent a top 10 pick on a left tackle, and they spent big on Jack Conklin on a right tackle. They had one of the best coaches in the league there, but they went from being one of the worst offensive line just from that personnel upgrade to a top 5 unit.
Like I'm trying to. I won't go too far into this, but I just want to ask you a question, Brian. Like, would you rather have like a top left guard? What's the guy's? Chef or whatever the heck his name is, and Corey Linsley, or would you rather have one of them and like an equivalent salary receiver?
It's tough. I mean, I think I would stick with what I said before. If you can, like, to me, it's not Linsley, and then there's another offensive line that's close. I think Linsley is the blue chip. I think there's some like red chip guards, but I think if you can go blue chip on offensive line and you can go red chip on receiver, I think that'll have a bigger impact on the offense overall. So, especially because I think you could actually double dip on receiver if you spent that money. I think you can materially affect the team with, a Will Fuller and John Ross, addition or something like that for probably the same price that you could spend on a top flight guard.
So are you feeling semi-comfortable with the left guard position, or?
I am. Like, I feel like the other thing is I also feel like there's potentially some options in the draft at the offensive line spot that could be interesting. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, would I be upset if they went too deep on offensive line? No. I would not be upset at all. But this wide receiver group, free agent wise, feels a little bit to me like the defensive back position in 2017 draft. And I'm like, get a couple out of there. Like, this is a chance for the Seahawks to potentially, especially with this cap year and a great quarterback, they should have an advantage. Just don't run it back with Philip Dorsett, for fuck's sake. Like dream bigger than that. But yeah, it's an interesting question. So we're done with offense. We've talked through the offense. I think we'll probably come back to this at some point. We're going to turn our attention to defense. What are the next position groups we're going to talk about, Jeff? Have you figured that out yet?
I think we're going to move to the front seven, defensive line and linebacker.
Okay. These are going to be interesting conversations because I think defensive line is always fascinating. We talked about it a lot last season. And eventually we'll get to cornerback, which is also a really
corner's going to be the interesting one.
Super interesting.
I'm excited about that one.
And I think it's good. Like linebacker also, there's some interesting decisions to make there. So we'll have that. I think it'll probably be a couple of weeks. I think we'll take 2 weeks between, this show and our next to talk through the next position groups. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, join up at patreon.com/hawkblogger. We'll keep the conversation going in our Slack channel, get immediate access there. We're building our donation pool for what we'll be able to give Ben's Fund this year. So now's the time to join because I am hoping, like I said last time, I haven't talked to Tracy about this yet and I don't know where they are, but I'm hoping they're going to do their auction again. And if so, I'll be buying stuff, access to talk to Seahawks players for patrons. So I'll post in the patron Slack and Patreon that option. As we said last time, I totally harassed Nathan with calls from Tedrick Thompson. It was fantastic.
Super nice guy.
Yes. You can actually, as part of your Patreon request that I have other players call Nathan. That's totally fine.
Who's your most annoying Seahawk right now, Nathan?
Be careful.
Nope.
Get Jason Myers to call.
Do
him.
not do that.
I would lose my shit.
Do not do that.
Jason Myers called him.
That. Nope.
Or Travis Homer.
Yeah, get Travis.
Oh my god. Oh, this is gonna be fun. So this is why you guys got to join. It's a good group. Patreon.com/hawkblogger. Join there. If you haven't already, click subscribe. Click the like button. We got like 38 likes on this episode. Come on, folks. You can do better than that. Let's get this up. We're always over 100 on likes. That helps more people discover the show, grows the community. Please go ahead and do that. And subscribe on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Whatever Apple does, I can't even remember what they do. In the meantime, everyone have a wonderful night. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Get in line for the vaccinations. If you haven't already, get them. They're coming. And hopefully better days are ahead for the Seahawks and for everything else. And until then, until our next show, go Hawks and